Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Unacademy, India's largest online learning portal for the preparation of different competitive exams. My name is Neelam Malkani, and I'm going to be a facilitator and guide CAT and other non-CAT management exams. In today's session, I'm going to address one of the most important topics, verbal ability section, para Jumble. Ever since CAT has done away with giving options in para-Jumble questions, this section or this part has become all the more confusing. Since this set of questions is presented in a form of riddle or puzzle, we all are inherently drawn to solve these questions. But since they are very confusing and they pose a lot of challenges, we waste a lot of time in doing that. So here, today's session, I'm going to talk about basic understanding of paragraph, basic strategies to solve these questions, as well as how these strategies can also be applicable to solving questions where you are not given any option. All right, so let's start today's session. But before that, let me give you a brief introduction of myself and Unacademy. My name is Neelam Malkani. I have master's degree in English literature, and I possess around 12 years of experience of training students for various exams such as CAT, GRE, GMAT, IELTS, TOEFL, and SAT. My areas of expertise have been English and verbal reasoning. I have also been into content development and design and set assessment papers of English and reasoning for various competitive exams for various states. I have also served as an examiner of English for an international organization. Recently, I have authored a comprehensive book of English for the preparation of competitive exams. Now, this channel and this video is brought to you by Unacademy. What you have to do to start your preparation with Unacademy, the first step is going to be downloading the Learning app of Unacademy in the Play Store. Once you download that and fill in all the details, you will be shown all the products and the services which are given by Unacademy, plus free courses and special classes. If you want to attend classes for CAT, you have to go in the plus category, and then you will be shown all the features that you will be availing once you join this course, such as 30 hours of session every day. So every day, more than 30 hours of sessions will be delivered by different faculty members, right? So as per your convenience, as per your availability, you can choose the time of your preparation, you can choose the time of your attending the class. Structured and well-designed courses are delivered by these faculties who are prominent in their domain, who are prominent in their sphere. All right, so these 40 plus top educators who possess wealth of experience of mentoring and guiding students for different exams will be taking and delivering these courses. Every new month, a new course is designed to cater to a specific demand of an exam, such as ZAT as decision making. So there will be a course which will be delivered to cater to the demands of ZAT aspirants, right? So under one subscription only, you will be availing all these features, all right? When you go into the subscription, you will be shown all the modules of subscription, such as 1 month, for 3 months, for 6 months, and for 12 months. So depending on your plan of preparation for this exam, you can choose the subscription, right? So if you are preparing only for CAT 2020, you can go for 1 month or 3 months subscription. Or if you want to go for CAT 21, you can go for 1 year subscription, right? So under this subscription only, you will be able to avail all the features. You will be able to attend the classes of all the educators, and will be able to attend all the courses which are offered by these educators. If you want to avail further 10% discount, you have to type the code Neelam, right? So whichever model of subscription you choose, if you type this code, you'll be able to get 10% the discount. All right, so here another important information about National Scholarship Test. So this test is being organized by Unacademy. It started on 18th of October this month, and now it's going to be conducted every Sunday. The CAT, as per the recent changes in pattern and the structure of CAT which have been introduced this year, this test has been designed, right? So you'll be given 3 sections: quantitative ability, logical reasoning, data interpretation, and reading comprehension and verbal ability, right? So all 3 sections as per the structure of CAT will be given to you. When once you take the test, you will be given your scale score as well as your all India ranking, all right? So you will get to see where you stand in terms of your position at all India level. Second, you will also see about your preparedness for this exam this year. You will be given detailed analysis of each section along with entire test. Each section will be analyzed by a faculty member who has set the design, who has set the paper, all right? So by attending that analysis session, you will see what mistakes you made and what strategy you need to adopt to avoid those mistakes later on. All right, so these are all the benefits that you will be availing if you take this test. What more can you ask for? You stand a chance of winning Amazon voucher of worth rupees 5,000 if you are one of the scorers of top 50. All right, so don't miss to enroll yourself for this test and take the test coming Sunday. All right, now let's begin our session today, that is discussing the strategies and tips for manageable questions, those which are followed by options as well as for those which are not followed by options where you have to type in your answer. Now, very quickly, just have a quick look at why these questions are of so much importance. So, one, they have been regularly appearing in management entrance exam. You name an exam which is conducted for the admission to management college in India, you will see parajumble as a part of this exam, right? Or verbal ability part, right? So, there may be some exams which are not testing your vocabulary, there may be some exams which are not testing your grammatical accuracy, but there isn't any exam which is not testing your understanding of paragraph through paragraph question, alright? So this has been an integral part of management aptitude test. 2-3 questions are expected to be from paragraph jumble, which sums up to 15% of the category verbal section. This year, the number of the time has been reduced, the time has been curtailed, hence the number of questions are also expected to come down. So here, if we go by 25 questions in verbal section, so that is what the number of questions is expected in verbal ability section, then 2 to 3 questions, or you may be given 4 questions from parajumble. So that is going to make around 15 to 20% part of entire verbal ability section, right? That means it's a huge part which cannot be avoided. Since these questions won't have any negative marking, that means it makes it makes all the more reason for attempting these questions, right? Because if you are skilled at understanding the structure of a paragraph and if you have done adequate practice before your exam, in the examination hall you will definitely try to give it a try, right? And since there is no negative marking, there will definitely be a lure to attempt these questions, right? Parajumbles are one of those questions in which if you practice well, if you do enough practice of CAT previous year papers, previous year questions of parajumble, you can improve your skills dramatically, right? Because this is one set of question where no concept is applicable. It is just the application of those concepts that you have already learned in different sections, all right? So it is based on your application. The more good you are at, the better you are at the application part, the better will be your accuracy in this section, all right? Now, basically, what is it that parajumble test? What is it that it wants to test in an applicant? And what is it that makes it an inherent part of all these aptitude exams, right? So there has to be certain things which are tested through this set of questions that makes it such an important part of all the management entrance exam. So one, writing conventions, right? So it may look unfamiliar to you that how it is testing your writing convention or your understanding of writing convention. But if you see closely, this is the overarching skill that you have to showcase if you want to do well in this section. Writing convention, that means how a paragraph is started, how an author introduces an idea in a paragraph, how that paragraph is organized by giving details, by giving examples, by giving evidence, and then how the paragraph or the idea is summed up or concluded, right? So this is how the writing conventions are formulated and which are usually conformed by all standard writers and authors. So since these questions of Para-Jumble are taken from academic journal or academic literature, the authors of these texts would have conformed to these standard norms or standard conventions of writing. So if you understand these conventions, it would be far easier for you to ascertain which statement is fitting statement to start the paragraph and then how this paragraph is going to be concluded, right? So what is the organization, how the structure of the paragraph goes. So writing conventions are definitely tested, right? Second, the application of grammar. So you are through with the concepts of grammar, but this part is going to test the application part of those grammatical rules, right? So you understand article, but how well you apply these concepts when it comes to solving this question. You understand noun and pronoun reference, but how well you ascertain a link between these two sentences by using the knowledge of this grammatical concept, right? So the application of grammar, you know the concepts, but now it tests your applicability. Logical ability. Above all, it falls into verbal ability part as well as verbal reasoning part. Some of the management exams categorize their section as verbal logic. So here it's going to require you to intermingle your verbal ability skills with your logical attitude or logical aptitude, right? So logic, that means what is or how an inherent connection between two sentences can be discovered, right? How an idea is introduced and how that idea is progressed by details. If there is a cause and effect relationship, what introduces and what concludes or what follows. If there is a thesis and after thesis, author has given the justification for that thesis, so what should be the sequence? Alright? If a general statement is given and then specific details are given, then what should be the order? Right? So here, your logic is going to be required. How you reason out with the text you are dealing with, right? So apart from all these skills, your writing conventions, the understanding of grammar, your logic will also come into play here, right? So the more questions you solve, the better understanding you will have of these logical connections. Alright? So I hope we are now clear that what is it that is tested by the set of questions of Para-Jumble. Now, since you know this is tested, you can now start focusing on acquiring one of these skills or two of these skills, or if possible, all three skills, right? Because if you're targeting CAT 2020, then you must have, kind of discovered that whenever you do certain set of questions, the grammar is not applicable. The entire question can be solved with the application of logic, right? But if you're targeting 2020, then you have to see that eventually you have to build up on all these three skills. All right? Now, all questions of Para-Jumble are given by one classic instruction or direction, that you have to make a coherent paragraph by given sentences. So 4 or 5 sentences are given which are in a jumbled form. You have to find a meaningful sentence which makes a coherent paragraph. That's how the instruction goes. That's how the direction of Para-Jumble goes, right? So coherent paragraph is what is prominent word, coherent, right? So if we understand what this word means and how different authors achieve this coherence in their writing, we possibly will have fair idea about what to see when we try to figure out the coherence in a paragraph, right? So let's try to understand the meaning of coherence. So my standard definition, which I have taken it from literary sources, in a coherent paragraph, each sentence relates clearly to the topic sentence or controlling idea. So that clearly means that each paragraph has a controlling idea. It's a unifying idea which controls all the sentences that follow, right? So controlling idea, that means the main idea a paragraph wants to convey. Topic sentence or the controlling idea, right? So that way, all the sentences are centered around that controlling idea. So if you understand that controlling idea, you will see what should be the position of that controlling idea. Usually, the controlling idea has to be at the beginning of a sentence. So overarching feature of a coherent paragraph is that it has to have a topic sentence or a controlling idea. A topic sentence which communicates that controlling idea. You want to simplify that. So there has to be a topic sentence which introduces the whole idea, the concept, or process. If author is talking about a process, so one idea which is going to introduce that process. Second feature of a coherent paragraph is if a paragraph is coherent, each sentence should develop logically from preceding one. That means the sentence C has to have some link with sentence B, and sentence B has to be linked with sentence A. So that's how they are seamlessly connected, right? So there is a logical flow from sentence A to B to C, and then concluding sentence, right? So they are seamlessly connected, they are inherently connected. So if author uses connecting devices, discourse markers, then the link will be overtly there, right? So you can see apparently what are those links which are connecting the sentences. Sometimes author does not use these discourse markers or connectors or conjunctions. And then you will have to figure out the connection from reading the content carefully, right? From reading the sentence carefully, sometimes you understand what is it that is connecting these two or three sentences, all right? So the sentences are going to have a logical flow. So they are not going to be connected abruptly, right? So that's what you have to understand by coherence. Third, a coherent paragraph also highlights the ties between old and new information to make the structure of idea or argument clear to the reader. So a coherent paragraph, when you read, when you come to your sequence, that B, B, C, A is your sequence. So try to read in that order and see if it is making it clear what the whole point is. As a reader, are you, are you, are you able to understand entire message without any hiccups, without any problem, without any interference? Is it telling you clearly what author wants to say? If that is not, that is possibly not the coherent structure, and that is possibly not the correct sequence that you have chosen. All right? Because a coherent paragraph is not going to impede the reader's understanding. A coherent paragraph is going to make it easier for reader to understand the message. Right? So with these ties that are there, ties means the connections, a tie means the link which are there. It can be logical, it can be linguistic link, it can be logical links, right? So with these different ties, author is going to make it very, very clear that what the message is. Coherence can be simply understood as clarity, right? So the more coherent a passage is, more clearly you can understand the message of the author. Alright? So if you are not able to understand the message of the author by the sequence you have chosen, you have possibly chosen the wrong answer. Alright? That is possibly not a coherent sequence. So these are the different features which a coherent paragraph should have. Answers, these questions are taken from academic journals, academic texts, and academic publications. They are very likely to follow these rules. So, writing is again creative art, and all writers have poetic license, right? So they can defy all the norms and devise their own strategy, devise their own innovative styles. But 90% paragraph will fall into this category only. Alright? So there are different ways to bring coherence. Now let's try to understand what are the different ways to bring coherence. Now before that, let's try to see a coherent paragraph, right? So let's try to see a standard coherent paragraph which is conforming to all the rules or all the features that we just discussed in previous slide. So it is commonly categorized that dogs have an extreme antagonism towards cats. So that's the topic statement. That's the controlling idea that has been bold-faced. So I'll just bold-face it so that you understand that this is what is going to control the flow of thoughts, the structure of the sentences, right? So controlling idea at the beginning. This. Now this is a referencing word here, which is referring to the idea which has been introduced in the opening statement. So this enmity, so antagonism has been replaced with enmity. So this enmity between these two species can be traced back to the time of the early Egyptian dynasties. So he talks about the origin. He talks about the early references, the ancient references. Archaeologists in recent years have discovered Egyptian texts in which there are detailed accounts of canines brutally mauling felines. So here, dogs and cats have been replaced by their animal adjectives, right? So dogs are known as canines and cats are known as canines, right? So see how author is using different words to explain the same thing. Today, now he talks about past, now he talks about today. So chronological detailing, right? So what evidence he gives, he starts with ancient time reference and then he comes to present time reference. Today, this type of plurality between these two, another referencing verse. These two is referring to dog and cat. So these two domestic pets can be witnessed in regions as close as your own neighborhood. Now he is trying to relate with, with your territory, right? He's trying to engage you with, giving you an example. For example, when dogs are walked by their masters and they happen to catch sight of a stray cat, they will pull with all their strength on their leash until the master is forced to yield, right? So a sight that you might have witnessed, you might have seen when you walk in a park, you see somebody who is walking his dog and being forced to go in a direction because the dog is chasing the cat. You might have seen that. You might have experienced that, right? So that way he is trying to engage the reader's attention here by giving that example. So see, example is given to prove an idea. Usually, the logic dictates that example cannot begin your paragraph, right? Though it would be wrong to say that it will never begin your paragraph. As I said, author is, writing is again a creative activity. An author can be creative. They can start with an anecdote, they can start with an example, and then later on they establish what their main idea is, right? But usually, example is always in the service of the main idea. Why am I giving a certain example? So there is always an idea behind giving an example. I'm trying to prove something, right? So here, look at the position of example. It is coming after details. It is coming after main idea. So for example, when dogs are walked by their masters and happen to catch sight of a stray cat, they will pull with all their strength on their leash until the master is forced to yield. The typical result is that if a lion is chased up a tree, the hatred between dogs and cats has lasted for many centuries, so it is unlikely. So look at this word now. So, therefore, hence, indicating conclusion, indicating climax of the idea, right? So it is unlikely that this conflict will ever end. Alright, so you see that all the sentences are woven in the fabric of one central idea, one unifying idea that dogs and cats are antagonistic to each other. They have always been, they still are, and it will continue to happen in future as well. That's how you understand this paragraph in with these coherent devices, right? So he has used referencing, he has used synonyms, he has used these discourse markers like so, and he has used example, he has given supporting details to frame this paragraph, all right? So this is the example of a coherent paragraph. Invariably, the questions that you are going to be given will be returned in a coherent way only, and that's why they are asking you to find a coherent sequence, all right? So the point here is that, coherence is nothing but the clarity. In this paragraph, we have understood that with the flow of thoughts, with the progression of idea, author brings clarity in the message. There is nothing that confuses me. There is nothing that stutters me here. That why this detail is, given suddenly after this detail. It flows in a seamless flow, right? So I hope we are clear with what coherence is, and a sample of coherent paragraph makes it clearer that how it is drafted. Now let's see how different ways, in different ways, an author can achieve coherence in a paragraph or in his writing. So there are different ways. Since there are different ways, that actually leads to this whole confusion, because a paragraph can be coherent when an example starts the main idea. Paragraph can be coherent when a pause is followed by an effect, right? So there are different ways. So there is no thumb rule of attaining coherence, but the coherence is achieved through these different ways, right? So let's look at these different varieties of coherent paragraphs. So using transition helps connect idea from one sentence to the next. So transition phrases, transition words are very important. You have to take a note of these words when you read a paragraph. Ordering thoughts in numerical sequence help to direct the reader from one point to the next. So numerical details, or in a orderly way, he will give you that first this happens, later on this happens. He will use different words to give you that this is the sequence of these action, or this is the sequence of these activities. All right. Structuring each paragraph according to one of the following patterns helps to organize sentences. General to particular, particular to general. So, you cannot dictate your understanding that it always flow from general to specific, right? It can also be reverse. Whole to parts, right? So you talk about a general thing first and then you talk to parts, right? So that way, this is usually the order. Question to answer. Author poses a rhetorical question and then he answers himself, right? So question is not unanswered. So the question is first and then comes the answer. Effect to cause, right? So usually cause to effect or effect to cause. Both can be the order, alright? So now look at this sentence, this paragraph where coherence is achieved with sequencing, right? So with using these sequence marking words like first, next, then, finally, author has tried to achieve coherence in the sentence. Coherence means he has tried to accomplish clarity in his thoughts by using these sequencing phrases. Like, I completed a number of tasks to become a writer. First, I learned the rules of grammar and punctuation and style. Next, I read many of the classic fiction books such as The Sun Also Rises and 94. As well. So as well connecting to idea. So when you see a sentence beginning with this possibly is not your opening statement. As well, I took courses in creative writing, especially poetry, fiction, and creative non-fiction. Then, again, a strong indicator that a statement opening with them is not going to be an opening statement. Then I found myself a job that allowed me to have time to write. Finally, conclusion indicating word. I sat down each night after work and wrote for an hour. These decisions made all the difference, right? So he has built this paragraph, attained coherence with using these sequence marking words, all right? So this is a coherent paragraph with sequencing. Now look at one more paragraph using chronology. Today was a memorable day. First, I read the newspapers, sipped my coffee. I learned that the unemployment rate was increased to 10%, the highest level in 26 years. To distract my mind and escape the bad news, I went for a walk in the snow. During my travels, I met and talked to Grace, my neighbor who told me that her dog died. Afterwards, right? उसके बाद हुआ ये. That means there is a time sequence, there is a timeline of these events. I continued my walk, ending up at the bookstore where I purchased this book. On the way home, right in front of my eye, a pedestrian ran across the street without looking and was run over by a dump truck. It was a memorable day. He started with the same sentence, he ended the paragraph with the same sentence, right? And in between, all the details which made his day memorable are given, right? So here it's also in a way sarcastic paragraph because all the incidents which are happening are kind of morbid, right? So, somebody is dying, dog is dying, he's, starting his day by reading something bad in a newspaper. So all the events are written in a chronological way. So this is also a way to attain coherence. See chronology. So these are chronology marking phrases. The coherence with analogy, he compares, right? He draws comparison, he draws analogy between two unlikely things, or those things which are starkly opposite to each other, right? So the brain is like a computer. Look at this word. So like, that means something else is being compared with something, right? So you input information, process it, discard it, store it, and retrieve it. Like a computer, sometimes the brain stops functioning properly. So here, this word is indicating that author has drawn analogy between two very unlikely things, brain and a computer, and compares how they both function. Alright? Now, coherence with cause and effect. Learning to write well has many benefits. So this is topic sentence, right? This is the controlling idea. So this paragraph is going to be centered on this idea, expanding this idea further. You will be able to write better essays, reports, and exams. So that's one benefit, which will improve your marks in college and university. Will also communicate better in the workplace. So another benefit also indicates that something has been stated before this. So this again will not be your opening idea. Moreover, those who read your prose will judge you to be an educated person, and you have a much better chance of publishing a novel or article or personal essay. Alright, so with moreover, he brings additional details. In addition to that, this is also the benefit of writing, learning to write. Alright, so you see this paragraph, achieving coherence with cause and effect. He states cause at the beginning. If you learn how to write, these are the effects that you can avail, right? And then with these discourse markers, also moreover, he brings clarity into the idea, right? Comparison or contrast is another way to bring coherence. So read this paragraph. Fiction writing and creative non-fiction have many things in common, right? So he's going to compare two things. Both are based in prose, not poetry. Both use storytelling to make a point. Both use figurative languages, such as simile and metaphor, to create interesting prose. Both use the elements of fiction, especially setting plot or characterization. Right? So here, author has brought clarity in his idea by comparing two frames. Right? So with this idea, I hope you have this clarity. Let's look at this paragraph as well. How author tries to describe, and when he describes, how he brings coherence to that. What is poetry? So that's a question. He starts his idea with a question, his paragraph with a question, right? And then he sets to answer that. It has many meanings, right? In fact, there is no single definition of a poem. In fact, another word which indicates that something has been stated before this word. In fact, is, you try to bring in more clarity to the idea that you state previously. To some, it is the deep expression of the soul. It is pronoun, which refers to poetry. So again, an indicator that this should not be an opening statement. To others, to some, to others. So that becomes your mandatory pair, right? Can you see all those rules and strategies which we learn for solving paradoxical questions are applicable in all these coherent paragraphs. To some, it is this, to others, this is this. So, this is how the sequence of these two phrases goes, right? So, not only but also, right? So, that's how the sequence of these phrases go. It evokes an emotional response in the reader. To others, it is the use of poetic language that reveals the truth about the human condition. All right? So, kind of settling statement which is going to conclude the argument or conclude the paragraph. Right? So, he describes what poetry is. He starts with a question and he brings coherence with descriptive words. All right? So, these were different paragraphs just to showcase you that how coherence can be attained or achieved through different means, right? So you need to be aware of these different ways an author brings coherence and clarity in his paragraph. Because the kind of paragraphs that you are going to encounter in paragraph questions will be written in varied style, in different styles, right? Now, some phrases, as we have understood, that one of the important ways coherence is achieved in a paragraph is by using different links, right? Different links, different devices which connect two sentences. So please look at this slide carefully. Take note of all the phrases that I have compiled here and try to see their meaning, try to see their application, right? And when you come across these words in your sentence, try to see what sentence they should be connected, right? And what sentence should come before this discourse marker or this discourse link. So to show addition, if we begin with this link, that means there is something which has been stated before this. The author wants to show something in addition. Besides, that means he has stated something else before and now he wants to take it further by saying beside. Give example. To give example, for instance, that means he is giving example to prove a point. So this example should be followed by a point. Alright? To compare, although, yet, most of the time these phrases are going to bring contrast in the idea. Right? So these phrases are used for bringing contrast in the idea, bringing discount in the idea. So see carefully, read sentences carefully and see what idea they are bringing contrast to. What sentences should be connected by these markers. On the other hand, right, still, though, yet, all these sentences will express contrary opinion. To summarize, to conclude, all in all, so that is very clear picture, very clearly indicating how the idea should be summed up, how the idea should be included. To indicate logical relationship accordingly. So accordingly is something has been stated, piece of facts, maybe a general truth, maybe a universal truth has been stated accordingly. Accordingly should come later on. That's not going to be my opening statement. As a result, consequently, for this reason, right? So take a note of all these phrases. These phrases indicate strong link. They are going to direct your answer. They are going to give you strong direction for your answer. Alright? So fine. So I have taken this paragraph and I have jumbled the structure of this paragraph. It's a very coherent paragraph which was there in a literary source, very standard literary source, written by a very prominent author. I have jumbled it up. Since we have understood what a coherent paragraph is and what are the features of a coherent paragraph and what are different ways through which coherence can be achieved, I hope we can apply that understanding of this paragraph and see the correct sequence of this paragraph. Alright? So look at this. First sentence, second sentence, and third sentence. And tell me what should be the correct order of these sentences. Okay, fine. So let me read it for you. I hope that's going to bring in more clarity. So the first sentence starts with like the word religion, it has one sense. Like the word religion, it has one sense. So it, a pronoun, right? So pronoun would be referring to a noun. What that noun is, we are not clear about that. So it cannot open your mind. It cannot be your introductory sentence. Philosophy, as pursued in the universities of the Western democratic world, is at least in intention part of the pursuit of knowledge, aiming at the same kind of detachment as is sought in science. Right? Could be your opening statement, but it appears to be the part of an explanation where author is delving deeper into defining a term, right? So here, let's hold it. Let's read last sentence. The word philosophy is one of which the meaning is by no means fixed, right? So here you can see that this is the controlling idea, because both the sentences which are there are talking about different meanings of philosophy. One is talking about philosophy meaning in academic sphere in universities, and first is using comparing it with religion. Right? So if you read first sentence carefully, it has one sense when used to describe certain features of historical culture, and another when used to denote a study or an attitude of mind which is considered desirable in the present day. So the idea which is propounded in first statement, that is word philosophy, is one of which the meaning is by no means fixed, is extended in first sentence. Right? It has many meanings. So the first sentence says, in historical cultures, this can be defined differently, whereas in this sphere, it can be defined differently. Right? So you see that author has tried to bring coherence by comparing it with religion first, and then illustrating it with giving example of how it is defined in Western universities. All right. So that is what the structure is. The third sentence is going to start the paragraph. First sentence is going to extend the detail, and this third sentence is going to second the argument. All right. I hope with this understanding of coherence, now solving parajimal questions are going to be easier. Okay. Now, let's talk about some traditional ways to solve parajimal questions. The different tips that you must have been taught in your classes, that you must have read in your modules, and you must have applied these techniques and strategies while solving questions in your mock and other exams, right? So I'm going to talk about these strategies first, and then how the same strategies can be applicable for solving questions where no option is given, especially for CAT. Alright? So application of article, definite article, the. Now as I said, your grammatical application will be tested in parajimal questions. So you know what articles are. You know different rules related with articles. But when it comes to applying these articles in a sentence where you are talking about a definite thing and then you are talking about an indefinite thing, how that understanding can be used to ascertain your opening statement and the following. Alright? Now see this sentence. Understanding the use of the definitive article, there could be of great help in connecting sentence. This might sound strange, but the definite article is one of the most frequently used tools to connect sentences. Right? It is. Now see this sentence. The announcement came after Union Ministry of Home Affairs made several changes to the land laws. The announcement. Can it be your opening statement? Can this sentence begin your paragraph? Now look at this sentence. Any person from outside Jammu and Kashmir can buy land in the Union Territory, which till now was exclusively meant for permanent residents and residents with domicile certificates. The announcement. Here, announcement can be preceded by article, definite article, the, because now we know the reference. In previous sentence, the announcement is possibly not clear to us because we have not been told what this announcement is. Right? So it looks jarring here because we don't know what announcement the sentence is talking about. Right? So we lose reference here, we lose context here. Right? It does not give you the clear picture, the whole picture of what this announcement, this sentence is talking about. On the basis of this application of the, you can eliminate this option as not being your opening statement. Alright, this is why the application of grammatical rules become more important in paragraph. Right? So look at sentence here now. So the announcement is connected with the decision which has been taken by union government that any person now can buy land in Jammu and Kashmir. Alright, now there is clear connection. So application of the article comes very handy, especially when it is placed before a common noun. Right? So this rule has to be taken with a pinch of salt. Whenever you see the placed before a word, it's not that you overrule that statement for not being your opening statement. Only when it comes before a common noun. Common noun has to be preceded by a or n before uh, when it is introduced, right? So when it is introduced for the first time, it should be it should be preceded by a or n. Then, when reader and author both know which thing is being talked about, it can be replaced by article the. I bought a laptop yesterday, right? Because I'm introducing that laptop for the first time. The laptop is not functioning properly. I can use the laptop now in the second sentence because you and I know which laptop I'm talking about. I'm talking about the laptop I bought yesterday, right? So with this simple example, I hope the reference is clear. The laptop is a common noun. I cannot say in the first sentence I bought the laptop yesterday. That entails the meaning that you and I already know which laptop I'm talking about, right? Possibly I had a discussion with you about a specific model of laptop yesterday, and then I inform you that I bought the laptop. But here, in writing, the reference is not clear. Alright? So please be wary of the article placed before a common noun. If it is placed, that means the common noun has already been talked about in a sentence previously. Right? Look at the sentence, try to see the difference and then choose your sequence accordingly. Right? I have taken a question from Jumble from previous year CAT questions in which the article becomes very handy, comes very handy here solving these specific questions. Right? A, B, C, D, E, five sentences are given. I have not given you any option. Now look at the words that I have bold-faced. We therefore, E says we therefore. So that means that cannot be an opening statement. Alright? Therefore, that means it's suggesting we did something, therefore we had to do something else. D says we recorded 17 cases in which a resident that was fighting an intruder was joined by an immediate neighbor and allied. Can be an opening statement. Let's hold it. C. They pushed or grappled only with the intruder. So this again cannot be your opening statement because who this they pronoun is referring to, right? The intruder. Now, intruder, the specific. That means possibly this has been introduced in a previous sentence. So C is also not your opening statement. Fights involving 3 male fiddler crabs have been recorded, but the status of the participants was unknown. This and D can be your opening statement. A. The two neighbors never fought each other. One more word with the definite article. So C is not your opening statement, A is not your opening statement, E is not your opening statement. But E is therefore, that means it is indicating effect, it is indicating consequence. So let's try to connect it with which sentence it is connecting. Let's try to see a link between E and other sentence. So if you see B, fights involving 3 male fiddler crabs have been recorded, but the status of the participant was unknown. We still had some problem. The status was still not known to us. We therefore tracked 268 intruder males until we saw them fighting a resident male. Right? So we therefore. So BE become your mandatory link. So B E has to be placed in your answer in this sequence only. It's not E and B, it is B and E. So you write it down, you note it down. Whenever you do parajumble questions, always use a piece of paper that you are given, right? Don't try to have the mental calculation of parajumble question, right? So B and E, so that's going to give you a clear link. So BE has to be there in this sequencing in your answer. Now, look at this. In 268, intruder names. Intruder is introduced here. And after that only C should come. Right? After, because the intruder is preceded by the. Not immediately, but it has to come after it. Alright? So we recorded an immediate. Look at this, which I have boldfaced. An immediate neighbor and ally. So they are preceded by A or M article because they are introduced for the first time. Look at A. The two neighbors never fought with each other. They pushed or grappled only with the intruder. Right? So A and C also becomes your mandatory pair. Just because of article the definite article the, you can come to your answer here, right? So the correct sequence is B, E, sorry, B, yeah, so B, E, D, A, and C. All right. So this is how you come to your sequencing correct coherent order just because you understood the application of article the, right? So be wary of this article the. Now, fine. So as I said, this is not going to be applicable to all kinds of sentences because the is perfectly all right when it is put before the name of a range, the name of a book, holy book, the name of a river, or the name of a country. So if there is a sentence which is starting with the United States of America, so that sentence is perfectly all right. You don't have to get confused there that just because the definite article is there and the sentence cannot be my opening statement, right? So a word of caution here, we have to see common noun, all right? So look at this sentence. Karl Marx said, religion is the opium of the people, right? Now, if I have this as the opening statement, the later sentence can be the idea was emphasized by many scholars in their works, right? So the idea. So here I get the correct sequence. But look at third sentence. The idea that religion can be an opiate for the masses has come into prominence again. This sentence can begin your paragraph because the idea that religion, this is again made particular in the sentence itself. It is not losing any reference. It is not leaving any reference, right? So here you need to differentiate between the kind of sentences which you are facing. If this is the kind of sentence you are facing, don't overrule it just because it's starting with the definite article. Alright, but look at the example I have given in the previous sentence. Karl Marx said religion is the opium of the people. The idea was emphasized. This sentence cannot start your paragraph. The idea was emphasized by many scholars in their work. This sentence cannot be started, cannot be your opening statement, but the third sentence can be your opening statement because the idea that religion, it is made specific in the sentence itself. Alright, so with a pinch of salt, you have to apply this understanding of definite article the. Don't blindly eliminate a sentence just because it's starting with the article. Understand the importance of pronouns. Noun, pronoun reference. The noun will always be followed by noun. I hope all of you know that. So if India's ongoing economic revival remains sustainable in Q3 and Q4, it will be one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So it is replacing India here. Says Nirmala Sitharaman, she said the government is assigning top priority to infrastructure build-up for sustainable economic recovery, right? So she is replacing Nirmala Sitharaman. So instead of repeating the noun, you replace them with proper pronoun, right? So here, how this understanding can be applicable to solve questions here. The cat question, two sentences using he pronoun, two sentences using bush, and one sentence using a designation, CEO of the White House. So what do you think is going to start your paragraph? So since you know that he cannot start your paragraph, so A and B are eliminated for not being your opening statement. Bush, George Bush, right? So if there is a sentence which is using full name, George Bush, and one sentence which is using his surname, his designation, or his title, that sentence will come later on. Alright? So here we don't have any sentence which is using George Bush. We have two sentences using his surname only. Now this can be any Bush, right? So this can be George Bush Senior, this could be George Bush Senior, Junior, right? We have two George Bush. So, rather, America had two George Bush. So here, the reference is again not clear. So possibly C and D is also not an opening statement. Now look at E. Representative democracy is a messy business and a CEO of the White House. So now this title and this designation is referring to George Bush, right? So here sometime designation and title can also be replaced by surname, right? Because this title is alluding to George Bush. So a CEO of the White House does not like a legislature of second guessers and time wasters. So this sentence is talking about George Bush. See here, understand the sentence and see which sentence is extending this idea. He sees that the legislature is messy business. Hence, he felt that he had a mission to restore power to the presidency. Legislature is the game of second guessers and time wasters. That means he cannot digest the idea of these messy legislature. And hence he felt that he has to restore power of presidency. Right? He has to assume more powers to be autonomous and free from the legislature. So this is how the idea is extended. There is a inherent link. There is no linguistic link, but there is an inherent link. Why he felt this need to restore power to the presidency? Because he found that legislature is a messy business. So president is the part of executive, legislature is the part of is the different part of government. All right. So D, E, and C becomes your mandatory pair. Now, at times, he was fighting the entire Congress. At times. So, you introduce this phrase only when you talk about specifics. Right? So, you speak in a general way, and then you talk about specifics. So, general statement first and specific statement later on. Bush was not fighting just the Democrats. At times, he was fighting the entire Congress. Right? So that way you see another pair coming up. So with this understanding of pronoun, you can come to your answer here that he cannot begin your sentence. B, again with he cannot begin your sentence. And Bush, because it's using surname, it can also not begin your sentence, right? So you have two understanding here with pronoun and with someone's surname. Alright, so if I use Mr. Modi, a sentence with Mr. Modi, it could be any Modi, it could be Narendra Modi, it can be Lalit Modi, it can be Neelam Modi, right? Unless I make it very clear for my reader that I'm talking about this specific Modi, I can use Mr. Modi in subsequent sentence, but I cannot start with Mr. Modi, alright? I cannot leave my message on the interpretation of reader. Right? So author is going to be very careful while drafting and wording his paragraph that he makes it very, very clear that what he wants to say, not leaving it on the interpretation of the author. All right. So again, one thing that pronoun, second surname. That can also be one of the handy tools to eliminate some options, and then designation. Okay, so noun and pronoun. So noun comes first, pronoun comes later on. That's one more rule that you can apply. So look at a question here. Here I have given you options. So one sentence says Michael Hoffman, another sentence uses Hoffman only, his surname, right? And we have here pronoun reference. So with that rule only, we can eliminate C as the option. So C is not there in any of your options. So you have E, A and D. So A can be your opening statement, Michael Hoffman. In terms of the, E says, in terms of the gap between work and divorce, translator comes somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. E can also be your opening statement. So A and E. D can be eliminated because Hoffman, surname is used. So name comes first, surname comes later, right? Now C, since you have read this sentence, um, try to see the connector here. He acknowledges too. In fact, he returns to the point often that best translators of poetry often fails at some level. He acknowledges too, but to word is defining that he did something else earlier. So let's try to understand what he did earlier and then he acknowledges too. Michael Hoffman, a poet and translator, accept this sorry fact. Another strong indicator that something has to be linked. What is this sorry fact that Michael Hoffman accepts? The sorry fact is expressed in E because the translator comes somewhere near nurses and street cleaners. So they are doing thankless job. Their job is not enough rewarded, right? So that way he accepts this sorry fact that the sentence is equating translators, those people who know two languages, right? So they have proficiency of two languages. That is why they are translating the text from one language into another language. Those people are being equated with nurses and street cleaners. So they are also doing their job. They are also doing crucial activity. They are performing crucial tasks. Nonetheless, they are not, acknowledged. Their work is not acknowledged. Their work is not rewarded. So this fact is accepted by Michael Hoffman. So that becomes your mandatory pair here. So E, A becomes your mandatory pair. He acknowledges two, in fact, he returns to the point. So here, this becomes your tribe. And that becomes, E becomes your opening statement. So now, in two options, in 1 and 3, you have same sequence, E, A, C. And you have to decide B and D. So CAT is going to, give you that kind of challenge as well. That if the links are so clear, so obvious, it is definitely going to give you more challenge by choosing the last statement. Or B and D or D and B, that's what you have to decide. But B says, but thanklessness and impossibility do not daunt him, from Miss Michael Hoffman. And he feels passionately about his work, and this is clear from his writing, which sounds as a concluding statement. Concluding statement is D, right? It does not daunt him, and this can be seen in his writing, that he is not intimidated. He does not lose his hope. He does not lose his motivation just because the work is not rewarded. This can be seen from his writing, right? So that way you come to your answer with understanding the noun and pronoun reference and with understanding surname and name reference, right? So surname should come later on if both are used in a paragraph. Time indicating sequences. So these are words which indicate time: before, after, later, when, then. So we did that in one of the questions, if you remember. So see, then is indicated in first sentence, then to astronomical. So that means that's not your beginning statement. That's not beginning your paragraph. Look at this word, D. So before. So what you have to do is, you have to scan these words, right? So if you know these words, that these are going to link you to another sentence, you have to scan these words and focus on these words. So by scanning, the technique that we use for reading comprehension, you also have to scan these words in your paragraph questions. So look at this. A simple model was proposed in 1514 by a Polish priest, Nicholas Copernicus, right? So nearly a century passed before this idea was taken seriously. This idea is indicating what he proposed in 1540, right? So B has this idea. His idea was that the sun was stationary at the center and the earth and the planet move in circular orbits around the sun. This idea is explained what was introduced in C. So CB becomes your mandatory pair, right? With CB, you have only one option. Look at the other links. Nearly a century passed before this idea. So this idea is introduced in B further, right? Then indicates what happened after the idea was accepted or after the idea was taken seriously. Then two astronomers, Kepler and Galileo, started publicly to support the Copernicus theory. Alright, so then and before are indicating that this is happening before and this comes later on. These sequence indicating words, you can come to your answer easily. One more question from CAT previous year papers only. Look at this word, since then. Such test, again, clearly indicating that something has been stated before these sentences. So since then means it's indicating some time, it's indicating some action happening. Since then, intelligence tests have been mostly used to separate dull children in school from average or bright children. Up say, that means some action has happened before this, and after this, these tests have been accepted. Now, Binet developed the first set of such tests. This indicates that some tests have been talked about in a sentence before this. Right? Now look at the options. C, D, E, C. D is not your opening statement. Look at E. Intelligence can be measured by test. So a neutral idea can be your opening statement. Followed by D. Okay. So here E is your opening statement and C is your opening statement, right? Because C says intelligence is expressed as intelligence quotient and tests are developed to indicate what an average child of a certain age can do. What a 5-year-old can answer but a 4-year-old cannot, for instance, right? So for instance, it's suggesting it's an example, right? So here E becomes your opening statement. So such test is getting its reference in this sentence. So ED, since then, he developed such test in early 90s, since then, right? So since then, and then C, in other words, intelligence tests give a norm for each age. So each age is being referred in 5-year-old and 4-year-old. Alright, so with that, you come to your sequence by understanding these two strong links of time and sequence. Right? Use of connectors. So this is again a very important way to find your links. So look at these 3 connectors. Moreover, she has been managing her career extremely well. However, she has been managing her career extremely well. Hence, she has been managing her career extremely well. So if you know the meaning of these connectors and you know your tone, what usage they have, right? You can easily anticipate the idea that should be connected before these sentences. And then you will start looking for that kind of idea, right? Look at this. She has proven herself to be a hands-on mother. Moreover, she has been managing her career extremely well. So she is not only doing this, but she is also doing it extremely well, connecting two strong ideas. She has a few setbacks in her family this year. However, uske bawajood, so that means she has been managing her career extremely well. That means she was possibly not in the position of managing her career well. So that kind of idea you were looking for and you got this sentence. Hence indicating consequence, hence indicating effect. So there was a statement which indicates cause and hence she has been managing her career extremely well. So she is truly a skilled multitasker. Isliye, therefore, she has been managing her career extremely well, juggling with all kinds of jobs. Right? So since you know the meaning as well as the application of these discourse markers, you can easily anticipate, imagine what idea you need to connect before them. Right? So if you are familiar with the meaning of different discourse markers, like what whereas is used or where whereas is used, where nonetheless is used, and you also know their applicability, it will give you a great deal of understanding about their usage as a link in a different sentence, right? Now look at these discourse markers being used in this question. But, so, now, right? I boldface this also, the idea, because it's using article, definite article, the, right? So, but that means it's contrasting, so that's not going to open your idea. So, it indicates effect, it indicates consequence. So again, that's not going to open your idea. Now in the information era, so you're talking about specific era. That means you're talking about specific era. That means you must have said something in a general way, right? How do you do better with your enemy? It's a rhetorical question. Author is possibly going to answer that further. The D can be your opening statement. The idea is to destroy the enemy's productive capacity. Explanation, right? Description of something, not opening statement. With regard to defense, the purpose of the military is to defend the nation and be prepared to do battle with its enemy. So can be D, can be F your opening statement, right? See, these two statements are given as your opening statement. Now, if you see chronologically, right, so agrarian era, information era, industrial era, you have to go by that order. So it was agrarian era, right? If we go by timeline, if we go by chronological way, agrarian era start, industrial era followed, and information era. Now in information era, right? So BAC should be your trial. So BAC, whichever option has BAC should be your answer. So that's there in two options. Now look at this. How do you do battle with your enemy? That's the question. So you wage war in agrarian era this way. You do that in industrial era differently, and you do that in information era this way, right? So that's how this question is being answered, right? So this is a question that is being answered here. Now, with regard to defense, the purpose of the military is to defend the nation and be prepared to do battle with its enemy. But how do you do battle with your enemy, right? So F starts your paragraph. D says, how do you do battle with your enemy? The answer is, the idea is to destroy the economy or enemy's productive capacity, right? So that's the idea. In agrarian era, you destroy their farms. In industrial era, you destroy enemy's productive capacity. Now in information era, you destroy enemy's productive capacity. Means destroying the information infrastructure, right? So that is how you come to your answer, by playing on these strong connectors. So, but, and now. All right. So I hope we are clear with that, with this understanding that rules and the strategies and the tips that we use or employ to solve questions followed by options are going to be same for questions when we solve for the questions which are not followed by any option, like CAT 18 question and CAT 19 question. Now it's very useful tip that you assume there are 4 options. When you face a question which does not have any option and when you have to type in your answer, you assume there are 4 options. The 4 options are: one statement, A is your opening statement, your second opening statement is going to be second, third option is opening statement is going to be third, and fourth option is your opening statement is going to be fourth, right? So assume you have 4 options, because that is going to curtail your confusion. That is going to bring down the chaos you have, because there can be multiple ways to sequence your answer here, or sequence your paragraph here. So if you bring it down to these 4 options, it is going to pave the way for finding all the links later on. So first, start with finding the opening statement. Assume you have these 4 options, that A is your opening statement, B is your opening statement, third is your opening statement, and D is your opening statement, right? Now, look at this sentence. This appeared in CAT 19. Metaphors may map to similar meanings. This word itself, similar meaning, overrules the statement as the opening statement. Similar meaning, that means some meaning has already been expressed and now we are talking about similar meaning. So A option is eliminated, right? Sorry. Second statement. Latin scholars point out carpe diem is a horticulture metaphor, right? Now here, this sentence is expressing the meaning of this phrase in a very specific term. Specific detail should come later on, right? The phrase carpe diem, which is often translated as seize, let's hold it, this can be your opening statement. It's an example of one of the more telling ways. That's not your opening statement, right? Because it's an example, that means an idea has been put forwarded first and then example is given. So see, with that you have lessened your confusion here. So A is not your opening statement, second is not your opening statement, fourth is not your opening statement. So you come down to C as your opening statement, third as your opening statement. Now, another strategy is to find link or finding mandatory pair. While eliminating these sentences for not being your opening statement, you had the idea, you read it, and you had the idea what these sentences contain. With that, try to build on your understanding of the link. It's an example of one of the more telling ways, fourth sentence, that we mistranslate metaphors from one language to another, revealing in the process our hidden assumptions about what we really value. So before this, I need to have a sentence which mistranslates the meaning of a phrase or meaning of a word, right? Just before that, what is it that should come? Look at second. Latin scholars point out this phrase is a horticulture metaphor that, particularly seen in the context of its source, is more accurately translated as plucking the day, evoking the plucking and gathering of ripening fruits or flowers, enjoying a moment that is rooted in the sensory experience of nature, unrelated to the force implied in seizing. So it is unrelated to the force implied in seizing. So the word means seize the day, seize the moment, right? But the translation or the interpretation which is there in the Latin does not evoke this meaning, right? I get idea of my example here, right? So 3, 2, 4, 1 is my sequence here. Look at first. So when we read 4 here, we get to know that it's talk about the example of mistranslation and how it can change the meaning. Metaphors may map to similar meanings across languages. So it is now coming to a conclusive statement which is going to talk about across languages. But their subtle differences can have a profound effect on our understanding of the world. Perfectly sums up the idea, right? So see, the application is same. What you can do is assume there are options to minimize your confusion, to lessen chaos, which surrounds these questions which do not follow any option, right? So assume there are options. Assume the option is opening statement A, opening statement B, opening statement C, and opening statement 4. So that's going to curtail your confusion. And then find an inherent link. All right. One more question from Cat 19 only. First sentence. So we all live under mob rule until then. Until then eliminates this sentence as the opening statement, right? So first is not my answer, A is not my answer. Perhaps we need to learn to condense the feedback. Perhaps, not opening statement, right? So perhaps that means I'm going to discount my idea when I start my sentence with perhaps, right? So what I said is going to be discounted further if I use this word. Cannot be opening statement. Second is again eliminated. As we grow more comfortable with social media conversations being part of the way we interact every day, we are going to have to learn how to deal with legitimate criticism. Perfectly a neutralistic statement which begins the idea, which begins the controlling idea of the paragraph. Fourth, a new norm will arise. A new norm for what? A new norm will arise where it is considered acceptable to reply with the same point that dozens of others have already. It seems specific detail. It seems, extension of the idea, not the idea itself. So 3 becomes your opening statement. Fine. Now, we got this word until then. That means we have some time reference. All right, so time reference. With that only, I'll try to find out my mandatory pair. Right? So when you read the sentence, whether it's an opening statement or not, don't lose focus of the content of the sentence. Right? So it gave me until then, that's why I rejected it for not being my opening statement. But I read the sentence and then I also focused on this word that is going to use it is going to be used later on for finding the mandatory way. Right? So that way you can minimize your time of rereading. So until then, that means I need to find a time sequencing word. Look at fourth. Says a new norm will arise where it is considered unacceptable to reply with the same point that dozens of others have already. Until then, so we all live under mob rule until then. जब तक ये नहीं होता, until this happens, a new norm arises because it's talking about future, right? It's talking about a new norm which is going to come, which is going to emerge in future. Until this happens, it doesn't help anyone. We are living under same mob rule. That becomes your mandatory pair. Right? Now, what is the placement of second? Look at this. Perhaps we need to learn to condense the feedback. So here, third is saying, talking about we need to learn something. We need, as we grow more comfortable with social media conversation being part of the way we interact, we are going to have to learn. So the learning part is extended in B. Perhaps we need to learn to condense the feedback. So that idea is immediately extended in B and then becomes your mandatory pair, right? So 3, 2, 4, 1 is your sequence. So no confusion, even no confusion when you don't have any option, right? So the rules remain same, the strategy remains same, the application of all the concepts we learned remain same here. All right. So I hope these two questions, discussion of these two questions of CAT 19 give you some clarity that these are the classic rules that we have been teaching, you all have been learning, you all have been employing while solving para-Jumble questions, will also help you enormously in solving questions where you are not given the options. I gave you this strategy that assume these four options are there because opening statement, finding opening statement is going to do half your job, right? And then you have to find the date. All right. So very clearly, uh, remember these points. Follow some same rules for optional, same rules for non-optional questions of para-Jumble, right? Spot articles. See their applicability. If it is the definite article, that means the idea has been introduced before. Noun-pronoun relationship. Identify chronology. Identify sequencing. Identify time sequencing with different phrases that we discussed. See transition in the words. See transition in the words in different reference, right? So this, that, these, so these are reference. Adjective, if you remember one paragraph where author replaced dog and cat with canine and feline. So adjectives. So he possibly would not use those adjectives before because he wants to make you familiar with what he is talking about, right? Keywords, strong linking words, so moreover, therefore, hence, consequently, don't lose focus of these words, right? So they are going to give you strong indicators of connecting two sentences. Look for the last sentences. So some of the questions in CAT will not get solved by seeing the opening statement, but the options are going to be designed in a way that opening statement is going to be same in 3 of the options, and then you will have to see the last statement, the last placement of the concluding statement. All right. So employ these tips in your mocks that you are going to take before your exam, and if they are workable, I'm sure they are going to be doable for you, and they are going to entail better accuracy, better performance in your mocks, and then decide which strategy which is working best for you, right? All the very best for your preparation. Keep watching this channel for such more educational videos for your preparation for CAT as well as other management exams. And do tell me what topics and what other concepts you want me to cover in coming videos, right? So I welcome your thoughts, your opinions on the content that I'm delivering through these videos, and would definitely incorporate your suggestions and inputs if you share with me. Thank you very much.